are kicking off episode 15 of the podcast devoted to the classic and sometimes not-so-classic genre cinema of yesteryear with the song This is Kaijin Country. It's from the release Kaijin from Vacant Planets. You can find them over at vacantplanets.bandcamp.com when you're done listening to this episode of The Bride of Monster Kid Radio. I'm your writer, host, and producer, Derek M. Cook. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. Thanks for downloading us. I hope that while you're listening to the show, or maybe even right after, or heck, do it right now, you rate and review the podcast wherever it is you download this show, because the more reviews we get, the more likely this podcast is going to be put in front of the eyes and or ears of other monster kids, and the more, the merrier. Especially when we talk about fun movies like the movie we're talking about this week on the podcast. It is the movie from 1966 called The Golden Bat. This is an early Japanese genre film, an icon of tokusatsu cinema, and we're going to be talking about it with Monster Kid Radio irregular Matthew Rashleigh. Now, those of you who have been listening to the show for a while know Matt is one of my oldest and dearest friends. I met him over 20 years ago. Good Godzilla, am I old? But I met him a long time ago when we both were going to film school. Neither one of us graduated, but we did go on to continue to appreciate film, and especially weird genre film like The Golden Bat. So we're going to talk about that this week here on the show. Of course, we are also going to have Mark Matzke's Beta Capsule review. He's still working his way through Ultraman Ace. It is an episode-by-episode breakdown of the iconic Ultraman series, multiple series. Bottom line is, Mark is going through every episode of Ultra Q, Ultraman, and so on, and letting us know what's happened in each of those episodes. He makes a little bit of behind-the-scenes information, and he is in the middle of Ultraman Ace, and it is awesome. Mark is awesome. Please support what he's doing over at Small Town Monsters, by the way. Go to smalltownmonsters.com to learn more about what they're up to. Thank you to Mark for making that happen. Thank you to Matt for taking some time, pretty short notice, to appear on this week's episode of The Bride of Monster Kid Radio. Just a little bit of housekeeping here. I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of the new shirt that we have available over as part of our Death Merchant line. If you go over to teamdeath.com, and Death is spelled D-E-T-H, click on Death Merchant, and that's going to take you to all the places where we have various merch available, up to and including a brand new button-down Hawaiian-style shirt that I'm calling the King Kaiju, or Kaiju King shirt. I don't remember. You're going to have to go to the link to find out for yourself. This is a $40 shirt. It is a Hawaiian-style shirt, and it features artwork from the original movie posters, the Japanese one-sheets for all of the Godzilla movies, plus things like Rodan and Frankenstein Conquers the World, that sort of thing, from the Showa era. This is one of my favorite shirt designs that I've come up with, and I know that sounds like I'm kind of bragging about myself. I'm not trying to, but it really is a cool shirt. It's probably one of my favorite shirts that I've done. I rank it right up there with my Crestwood House shirt. Crestwood House shirt? What am I talking about? Well, you're going to have to go to teamdeath.com. Once you're there, click on Death Merchant, and you'll be taken to the various online stores that we have available where you can help support the podcast while getting some cool merch for yourself. There is also a brand new t-shirt available in our TeePublic shop. If you were a fan of physical media video stores, if you happen to work at one, there is a brand new Never Forget to Be Kind to Rewind t-shirt available, a Never Forget Blockbuster shirt available over at TeePublic as well. So please check that out when you have an opportunity, and maybe even share the link on your various socials. Let's go ahead and get into the bulk of the episode. We're going to kick things off with Mark and the Beta Capsule review right now.
It all begins as a summer vacation. A young family finds a beautiful old house. It could be the answer to their dreams.
So you are the people who want to rent this house?
Well, you mean it's $900 and then it's all ours?
Or the beginning of a nightmare. Burnt Offerings, starring Karen Black.
Are you actually trying to tell me that this house is responsible?
Oliver Reed.
This house is destroying us.
Oh, God!
Betty Davis,
This house is getting so cold.
Burgess Meredith,
This house will be here long, long after you have departed. You believe me?
Eileen Heckert,
When it comes alive, tell them what it's like.
Burnt Offerings from United Artists. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested.
An upheaval of nature tears loose a creature out of the nightmare of time. Spawned by an earthquake on the bed of the ocean, a reptilian, earth-shaking beast of the sea. The monster that challenged the world.
My tank.
What's wrong?
Blake's tank is caught in the undergrowth.
God! What happened?
Oh my God, his body. He died right in front of me. I couldn't help him. I better go back. Talk sense. What's down there? I don't know. I never saw anything like it before.
It's the size of a dinosaur, and 10 times more terrifying, hurling the horrors of the unknown at every living thing.
Live from the Land of Light in Nebula M78, home of the mighty Ultra Heroes, it's Monster Kid Radio's Beta Capsule Review. Ultraman Ace, Episode 29, The Sixth Ultra Brother. One evening in the Kaijin industrial sector, a huge, terrible monster appeared out of nowhere. The monster, named Gidagatanga, did tremendous damage, but by the time Tak arrives on the scene, it's nowhere to be found. Soon into the investigation, Hokuto and Mikawa encounter a boy named Dan being tormented by his peers for having a father who died allegedly as a drunk driver. Strangely enough, the heavy scent of alcohol permeates the industrial site where the monster appeared. During another skirmish with kids his age, Dan surprises Hokuto by being able to see a star in the daytime sky. Dan accurately predicts Gidagatanga's next rampage, and as the monster attacks, Tak hears the voice of an underground being which claims to be controlling Gidagatanga. If humans don't stop subterranean drilling, the voice warns, the destruction will continue. The terrible monster vanishes again, but when Dan learns the truth about his father's death, he tries to confront the underground alien by himself, triggering a final showdown in which Ace must intervene. Episode 29, which first aired October 20th, 1972, marks the beginning of Ace's new era, in which Hokuto is his sole human host. As such, the story does a successful job of re-establishing Hokuto as an older brother figure in relation to young Dan, a formula with a lot of appeal. The concept of kids not only being encouraged by Ultraman, but actually helping him to achieve victory is one that resonated across series, beginning with Hoshino in the original Ultraman of 1966. As signaled by the preview of Episode 30, Dan becomes a recurring character in the world of Ace, with his ability to see the Star of Ultra and predict the appearance of kaiju, earning him the exciting nickname, the Sixth Ultra Brother. In a neat little tribute, the character was evidently named after the screenwriter Shukei Nagasuka's eldest son. For Monster Kid Radio's Beta Capsule Review, this is Mark Matzke reporting.
This may be what we've been listening for the past 4 years.
At last, contact with another planet, but it's really contact with nightmare.
Nick,
From out of this world, from out of the vast, frightening unknown, come the Terranauts.
Something came out of the sky, picked the building up bodily and tore it out of the ground.
One moment on solid from your Earth, the next kidnapped into an enemy world.
Give me that gun!
Human race will be destroyed or driven into caves like savages unless we can...
Unless we stop this enemy first. We must wait till we're within range.
You'll thrill to the most fantastic intergalactic battle ever. A warring asteroid challenged by a handful of humans 1 million miles out in space, determined to save the Earth from the Terranauts.
Gentlemen, we are witnessing a biological chain reaction, a geometrical progression of deadly menace.
It had started casually, insignificantly, as momentous events often do.
Look there. 2 points off the port bow.
The giant behemoth, the fire-spitting monster predicted in the Bible, its core a mass of lethal radiation. Rising from the depths of time, its strength enormous, its gargantuan ferocity a threat to London, to the world itself.
We must find a way of destroying this creature in one piece. Judging by the beast's size, I would say it was powerful enough to drive a battleship.
Of course, its tremendous electric charge is what projects the radiation. That's what makes a creature so deadly.
Have you any concrete suggestions? Yes. First, block off the Thames.
This is Count Vlad, but you may recognize me by my more familiar name, Count Dracula, and I'm here to offer you a friendly warning. Derek and his guests often get excited, and occasionally this results in revealing key plot points of the movies they're discussing. In your parlance, you might call these revelations spoilers. You know how the children of the night, monster kids can get sometimes. So consider yourself warned, and don't come begging to me to kill them for their transgressions afterward. I have more pressing issues to take care of, like that pesky Van Helsing.
Bride of Monster Kid Radio listeners, here's a secret. And I mentioned this in the live stream that we did over at twitch.tv/monsterkidradio. Be there every other Saturday when I'm running movies. Here's a secret to getting onto the podcast as a guest. If you want to be a guest on Bride of Monster Kid Radio, all you got to do is find a movie that you really, really love, a classic monster movie or not so classic monster movie, and tell me that you love it. And chances are I'm going to say, hey, do you want to come onto the podcast to talk about it? And that's exactly what happened this time around when Matt Rashleigh, returning to the show, a Monster Kid Radio irregular, reached out to me going on and on about how crazy fun the movie The Golden Bat from 1966 was. It was a first-time watch for him, I believe, and actually it turned out to be a first-time watch for me as well, because I thought I had seen it, and I was wrong, and I was blown away when I sat down to watch it myself. We're going to talk about it with Matt. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm good. Yeah, I'm excited. This was a real surprise for me.
There are so many movies out there, so many movies, that I needn't worry about running out of films to talk about here on the podcast. This was a real legitimate concern for me at one point, that I was going to run out of classic monster movies. They weren't making more classic movies. By definition, they can't make another 1954 movie or 1932 movie or whatever. But the truth is, there are so many films out there in so many corners of the world, so many subgenres, pockets, and undiscovered areas that we can explore together, that I don't think I'm going to run out of content anytime soon. And this movie is an example of that. It's a trip, man.
It is a wild ride for anybody ready for an adventure.
It is. Yeah.
The Golden Bat from 1966.
An adventure, it's a trip, it's a ride, and it's an important film in terms of its place regarding the development of tokusatsu cinema. Tokusatsu meaning special effects in Japanese. Tokusatsu is kind of like the overall umbrella of, well, basically all the movies that I was showing yesterday in the stream over at twitch.tv/MonsterKidRadio. Be there every other Saturday for movies. Probably going to try to plug that 2 or 3 more times today. But tokusatsu is like this overall umbrella when it comes to kaiju films, when it comes to Ultraman, when it comes to even things like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, for crying out loud. It's anything that involves this crazy special effects technique or two that creates a movie or a story like this. Did you know anything about Golden Bat before you dove into it?
No. I had watched The Terror Beneath the Sea, which also came out in 1966, with Sonny Chiba, a young Sonny Chiba, and I noticed that he and director Hajime Satô, apologies if I mispronounced the name, that the two of them also made another movie together the same year called The Golden Bat. And I saw an image of it, and I saw this golden skull with a big, huge Doctor Strange-like cape. And I was like, I've never seen anything like this that's tokusatsu or Japanese. And I saw that it was streaming on multiple sites. And I was like, why not? Let's just dive in. And from the get-go, from the most amazing maniacal laugh from a hero that most people may not know, but they should, was the Golden Bat laugh and the amazing theme song and the amazing opening credits. And I was like, oh, this is going to be something special. And I think the movie's only like maybe an hour and 15 minutes long, but it felt like 20 minutes. It was like a amusement park ride.
It's very fast-paced. It zips along real quick. In fact, there are a few times when I kind of wish they had slowed down a little bit, because there are so many fast transitions from what we're doing here to what we're doing here. We start with a younger person seeing something in the sky that may be coming to Earth. He tells somebody about it. They just tell him not to worry about it. He's an amateur. Well, whatever. No big deal, kid. Then he's abducted, and now it's a Men in Black thing. And then he's taken to the UN, and now it's a secret agency thing. And it's just bam, bam, bam. And then we're in Atlantis, and then there's a mummy that they find that not really a mummy, but it is a mummy. It's the Golden Bat. And now we have to follow a prophecy, and now we bring him back, and now there's aliens, and it's just all over the place. And I love it.
Yeah, you can see in the Golden Bat so many things that have been reused in other genre cinema and superhero movies and tokusatsu. Like, it just feels like this movie was a foundational block in figuring out how to make those kind of stories for the screen. And I think that that's one reason I would really recommend this movie to anybody. If you like Men in Black, Hellboy, the MCU, you're going to see those roots run back to this. There are a lot of things in this that I think fans of those other genres or franchises would really love about the Golden Bat.
You even brought up Santo in the conversation we had online about this, that you could see some luchador stylings in here. And I did say mummy on purpose because so many times in the lucha films, mummies are the bad guys. So there's some luchador stuff in here potentially as well, depending on how you look at it and how much you squint your eyes and kind of, but there's a lot going on here. And what I find really fascinating, the movie's fun, and we'll talk about the movie some more, but the roots of the character, it's often been said that the Golden Bat is the first superhero. Now, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if I agree with that, because if you trace the roots of superhero storytelling, you can make a case that you go all the way back to like the Greek myths and the Roman myths and things like that, and say that's where the superheroes come from, or at least partly. But Golden Bat began as basically street theater, something called kamishibai.
Yeah, kamishibai.
Kamishibai, thank you. I don't know how to pronounce or read or any of that Japanese. I wish I did, and maybe someday I'll sit down with my stepdaughter and ask her to school me a little bit. Kamishibai, basically street theater, paintings or illustrations held up while somebody is telling a story with pictures and obviously their words. I'm finding the more I dig into the history of not just Golden Bat, but Kamishibai, to be fascinating as well. And I could see the leap from using words and pictures, kind of going from that to comic book storytelling or film storytelling. It does predate Superman, and obviously Batman, Spider-Man, all the others as well. Is it the first superhero as we know them? Maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think that it's certainly the beginning of what we consider modern superheroes. Coming out in being invented in 1930 or 31, it, like you said, predates Superman and Batman. And I dug in a little bit more into this, and it is cool that it was invented by Suzuki Ichiro, who was only 25 at the time, and Takeo Nagamatsu, who was 16. Like those are the ages where superheroes probably rock the hardest. And I think it would be amazing to think about, like, these two young guys really excited about the story they've just come up with about a golden-skulled, almost demigod rocking out and beating back Dr. Nazo, as being really exciting. Like, I can just imagine those kids, enjoying street theater, seeing these panels and hearing these guys tell their story. After I saw the movie, I was so hyped about it. I showed it to my kids. And one reaction I got was they could see the 1930s roots. They were like, this reminds me of Tintin. This reminds me of Flash Gordon. I can see the 1930s serials in it, The fact that you have this hero that's sort of all powerful. Granted, you don't get a lot of backstory or their origin story, but they're a force of nature and a force for good. And a lot of the design and the way that they interact with the villains, the way that the henchmen look, they definitely saw those 1930s roots. And that really impressed me. And I could definitely see it once they pointed it out.
I mean, it's a black and white film, but it's also telling its story in terms of black and white. These people are good. These people are bad. It's very pulpy in that regard. And I love that for it. It gets to be a little bit more of a gray area, considering that your hero is a skull-faced character, but, here in the US, something with a skull on its head might have some more evil Red Skull kind of connotations. I don't know what it was like in Japan at that time. But beyond that, I mean, it's very much, he's a hero. And I think some of the first words he says, some of the first words that are spoken about the Golden Bat character, he's a force for justice, for all of Earth. He is to protect humanity. Very clearly defined mission statement.
Right. And his nemesis, Nazo, who is bad like Ming the Merciless. Like, he is evil and he enjoys being evil, and he's here to destroy humanity. Like you said, it's very cut and dry. black and white. I also found it interesting.
It does make me wonder. I'm sorry,
no,
go ahead.
I was going to say also the fact that this was a black and white movie made in 1966 was kind of surprising to me too. And I think it works better in black and white. But, Japanese cinema, just like in the States, a lot of it was being done in color by this point. Black and white seems sort of rare. So I don't know if it was a aesthetic choice or the fact that Toei Studios, which is, I think I would say it's fair to compare to RKO, that it wasn't one of the big studios, but it was on the edge of trying to be big and trying to do stuff, but on a tighter budget. So I don't know if Toei was limited by funds or if it was an aesthetic choice to do black and white, but I think the Golden Bat works really, really well in black and white.
I think so too. I think it might lose something if you saw it in color. We know what color things are supposed to be. I mean, he's called the Golden Bat, for crying out loud, and the cover art tells us what color he's supposed to be. But I don't think we need to see it in color to get the kind of flashiness that comes with this. So I agree with you. I think it works well as a black and white film. Toei Company is, I believe, still active today. They're probably best known for Kamen Rider and especially Super Sentai, which would become Mighty Morphin Power Rangers here in the States or evolve into that here. So, I mean, they're still around, and you can certainly see the roots of that in Golden Bat. I just find it so interesting to think about its place in pop culture, and it makes me wonder if the creators of Superman, the creators of Batman, somehow saw or through a connection to somebody who was over in Japan after World War, during that time or before or whatever, I don't know, somehow saw or got exposed to, through 6 degrees of whatever separation, the Golden Bat story. I don't know if it influenced it or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting.
I don't know how to track that.
Every time there's a movie that I haven't seen before that really is on the Monster Kid Radio spectrum, like every time I find one that I get excited about, I know that you're going to be happy to talk about it, but it becomes an exploration for me. I go on an adventure and I research these things and I learn so much. And I thank you for allowing me to do it. It allows me to nerd out and learn some stuff. And on your point of, 6 degrees of separation, I guess the Golden Bat was really huge following this in South Korea. And they did their own knockoff versions of the Golden Bat. And at one point, they kind of merged it with Batman. So they have a Batman, which is the Golden Bat. Looks like Batman, but the suit is bright yellow with a blue cowl and hood and cape. And it's their version of the Golden Bat. And it was like a merge of the Golden Bat and Batman. And I need to get a hold of some of that because that looks totally bananas.
Was it live action or a comic book?
Both. They animated and live action.
And I think speaks to the popularity of the character. The Golden Bat did spawn an anime. It did spawn a manga series. In fact, when I went to go look up the Golden Bat so I could find it streaming somewhere online, I ended up finding animated material. I'm like, well, this is cool. It's not what we're talking about today, but it's cool. And I would like to go back and rewatch it. Or watch it and kind of get a taste of it. To your point, to what you said earlier about these explorations, that's one of my most favorite things about doing this podcast, is we find a movie that we either think we know everything about, like, say, one of the Universal films, or something that we know nothing about prior to talking about it, like the Golden Bat, and digging in and learning more and seeing where things kind of branch. And, I'm a big proponent of the idea that everything is a remix, everything is influenced by everything that's come before, whether intentionally or not, i.e. Quentin Tarantino's career, but everything else as well. Everything is a remix. And to see where Golden Bat kind of influenced what was happening in Japan with storytelling, with film, with television. This company would go on to do Captain Ultra. It would kind of sort of follow the same trajectory of what was happening in the early days of Ultraman. Ultraman did come out on television about 5 months before Golden Bat hit theaters. but it's really difficult to not see some of the similarities there as well.
Yeah, totally.
Especially since I love Ultraman. So.
Absolutely. Well, and that was one thing that I kind of feel like I need to learn more about, was the fact that, like, we often talk about how 1954 was a real moment for Japanese cinema, and we got Godzilla out of that, and you could see all the other cultural things that were happening around it. The Golden Bat came out in 1966, and for 1966, like, that was a pinnacle year for tokusatsu. You had the introduction of Ultraman, you had War of the Gargantuas, you had the Ambassador of Magma, you had Abira, Horror of the Deep, Ed Gamera versus Borogon, Daimajin, like, all those things all happened in 66, the same year as Golden Bat. And I don't know if that's part of the reason that Golden Bat's kind of seems to be the forgotten hero, but it seems like it was a huge year for Japanese TV and film.
I would like to go back, and I've never watched Captain Ultra. I'd like to see some Captain Ultra just to kind of see more from the machine that made the Golden Bat.
Right.
To see if they continued to have that influence or that kind of success. I did look a little bit up about, that was a weird way to put it. I did look up a little bit about the director, Hajime Satô. I did not realize until you brought up Goki Body Snatcher from Hell in our conversation that he was also the director of that. And that movie, oh boy, it's really good. It leaves me feeling very unsettled. It's a very uncomfortable watch to me, in the same way a movie like, say, Tetsuo the Iron Man is uncomfortable for me to watch, which I don't know if you've seen or not, but it's not that it's a bad movie. It just really gets under my skin in a very unnerving way. It crosses that boundary from the fantasy horror to actual horror to me. And it's a good movie. It's very effective. I kind of want to go back and rewatch it now. But he also directed Terror Beneath the Sea, which you were mentioning earlier. And that's kind of what led you down this path to the Golden Bat. I love Terror Beneath the Sea. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's got a really cool monster design. And it's so cool to see Sonny Chiba in a non-martial arts kind of role, doing his thing. And I really like that one too. But I was looking at the director, and it looks like he'd done a number of genre pictures that suddenly now there's more movies for me to add to the to-watch list for Bride of Monster Kid Radio. House of Terrors, The Glamorous Ghost. I've never officially talked about Goki Body Snatcher from Hell, and I don't think I've talked about Terror Beneath the Sea. If I have, I don't remember it, so I wouldn't mind going back to it. But it looks like he's done a lot of genre cinema as well, and that's something that, I want to learn more about. Genre cinema of other parts of the world fascinate me.
Yeah, it seems like Hajime Satô and Sonny Chiba, both going into the 70s, became hard-boiled, like a lot of cinema around the world, and made a lot of great art and great entertainment, but also kind of disturbing stuff. And it's neat to see that both their careers started in this very fun tokusatsu way in the 60s.
Cinema did change in the 70s quite a bit. And I'm curious, when was the first time you became aware of who Sonny Chiba was?
That's a good question. I was thinking about that, and I feel like I watched...
Or is, I guess. He's still around.
No, actually...
no, he did pass in 2021.
Unfortunately, we lost him in 2021. He died of complications from COVID at the age of 82.
Oh. Okay.
But he did have a resurgence, like so many other people who appeared in Tarantino films. Like you were talking about how he sort of repurposed and rediscovered people from the 60s and 70s. Sonny Chiba was one of those. He's in Kill Bill. And he a whole other generation of viewers found him that way. So I can't really remember the exact first time I've seen one of his films, but I feel like back in college I had watched a Japanese action film where he was like a detective or something with lots of karate. But I can't remember any specific titles.
So Tarantino is the one that introduced me to him as well, because Tarantino wrote the screenplay for the movie True Romance. And in that movie, Christian Slater, was he the one in True Romance?
I believe so.
Yeah, so in that movie, Christian Slater's character is obsessed with the Street Fighter films and mentioned Sonny Chiba.
I want to watch those.
That was what first clued me into who Sonny Chiba was. I had no idea when that movie came out, and I saw it in the theater, so it would have been during its theatrical run. And then, he and Patricia Arquette's character watch a bunch of Street Fighter films together and talk about Sonny Chiba. I've never seen a Street Fighter film. I'd like to. I'd also like to track down Wolf Guy from 1975 because it looks like it mixes like this kind of hard-boiled cop thing, but there's a wolf guy.
Yeah, that he has lycanthrope blood in his family tree.
That sounds awesome.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Sonny Chiba, he has, like, going back and watching some highlights of his career, he has that charisma and on-screen, like, power that seems Eastwood-esque, especially in the 70s. And I was learning more about Sonny Chiba, and originally he didn't intend to be an actor. In college, he was training to be an Olympic gymnast, but he ended up injuring his foot in such a way that he couldn't continue doing that. So he started acting when he was like 18 or 19 years old. And it's really amazing that, out of the loss of what he wanted to do and having to take a new tact, ended up being like this huge movie star in Japan. Back to the Golden Bat, he's the leader of the Pearl Institute, playing Dr. Yamatone, and he is the essence of cool. Like, he's the guy you want leading you. From the turtleneck and the goatee to his calmness, like, he's the one you want leading your super secret science agency to protect the Earth. I was really impressed with him.
Which is very Ultraman-like. I mean, that's every Ultraman series almost every Ultraman series has a science or government agency set up to fight monsters, to explore mysteries and that sort of thing. And we have that same here with the Pearl Institute in this film. And he is super cool. Everybody is cool in the Pearl Institute. He's super cool, but the one person that really stood out to me was the granddaughter.
Right. Yeah.
Because she takes a beating, man. They put her through a lot in this movie.
Yeah, and her emotional range is great. Like, she really pulls you in. I don't have her name in front of me, the actress.
Neither do I, unfortunately. And that's the one downside to exploring a lot of non-U.S. genre films, especially once you start getting into non-English speaking countries of origin. For genre films, is a lot of times it's hard to find a lot of that material easily. But I don't remember the actress's name. No.
We talked about Sonny Chiba and Hajime Satô. Other people involved with this film also went on to have influences on tokusatsu. I love the music in this, for one thing.
Oh, yes.
Shunsuke Kikuchi was the one who did the music. Also went on to do the Hero and Super Robot programs, which were on TV. But the music in this is amazing. What were your thoughts?
Oh, I loved it. And this might be, I really liked it. It is something that did give me a little bit of whiplash as it was moving along, because it does go from one style of music to, okay, now it's action time. Okay, now we're exploring this cave where this thing might be. Oh, now it's action time. So it's kind of back and forth, back and forth. But that seems to be a staple of a lot of Japanese genre music. I love, the Godzilla music. I love that stuff. But sometimes it does kind of whiplash shift from one type of music to the other. There's not a lot of transition. Right. That's not a dig, because I really like those pieces on their own. Shunsuke Kikuchi is not somebody whose music I have in my collection. I'd like to add more, have it, because it's so good and I would listen to it all the time. His music was repurposed by Tarantino in the Kill Bill films. Big surprise there. But yeah, the music is really good. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if it's available out there somewhere. I should go to Soundtrack Collector and find out, because now I want it.
Also, the screenwriter of this, Susumu Takaka, also went on to write Ambassador Magma, Space G-Men, Captain Ultra, and Inazuman, as well as contributing to Super Sentai and Metal Hero. So you can definitely see those through lines to future tokusatsu from 66 on.
Yeah. You and I mean, I'm a little bit older, but not by much. We're Gen X, but I think we were a little bit too old for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Right.
So am I making the right? So do you have a lot of Morphin time experience?
I do not. And
yeah,
I don't know for you, but for me, I do kind of feel like being Gen X, we kind of fell in a gap as far as when it comes to kaiju and tokusatsu. Like, it wasn't really all that interesting to me as a teenager or as a young adult. And it's only now that I'm coming back to that stuff and really falling in love with it. And so, like, for me, it's like being a kid again, going down this road of enjoying kaiju and tokusatsu and finding these films that are, at least they're new to me. I mean, I'm familiar with them, but I hadn't really watched them. And it's been a great ride.
I'm of the same mindset. I feel like I needed to be old enough to engage with the kaiju films and especially the Ultraman products. Because let's be honest, a lot of the Ultraman stuff, it was marketed to kids, and it still is. The property's half owned by a toy company at this point. So yes, of course it's marketed to kids. But I can enjoy the charm of that now. Whereas I think 20-something, 30-something year old Derek probably would not have been into it. Would have kind of rolled his eyes and said, yeah, it's not really for me.
Yeah,
So it's been fun to re-engage and discover some of this stuff.
I also kind of wonder if the way that some of these movies were dubbed into English and also the way that they were sort of used as the punchline of jokes for, like, Mystery Science Theater kind of turned me off to looking at these as serious things. And now I've reached a point where I can watch these, not saying that they're serious, but enjoying them for the sincerity in which they were made and to be enjoyed. Like you'd mentioned Santo earlier, and I think that that's one thing I really loved about The Golden Bat and Terror Beneath the Sea, is that, we kind of live in troubling times and we're dealing with a lot of serious stuff. But like The Golden Bat and Santo, they had a sincerity about them. Like I don't want to say an innocence, but there's something genuine about them, even though they're campy, even though they might be low budget and, sort of like serials of the radio days. There's just an honest fun about them. And there's a truth to the genuineness of the heroes. And even though that might seem simple compared to some complex stuff that we have in cinema now or in culture, but I kind of found it refreshing in that sense.
Yeah. And I would even say things like the cliffhanger serials of the 30s and 40s, the film serials, some of those have that as well. Beth and I, we go to the MCU films every time one comes out, we go see it because some of those characters are important to me. And we did see, the new Captain America movie when it first came out, right before she had to leave for a little while for reasons. She'll be back next week, folks. But, and we enjoyed ourselves. We had fun and we appreciated a lot of the things that were happening in that movie. But it is a complex gray area, what's really right, what's really wrong kind of stuff going on there. Whereas you watch a Captain America or Superman serial from the 30s, and it's clear who the villain is. It's clear who the good guy is. There is no might makes right, kind of jingoistic whatever happening in these films. It's clear. Is it innocence? I don't know. Is it childlike or campy? I don't know, but it is different.
I think that also,
and I do find it refreshing,
especially being Gen X and coming up in that era of, wanting to be filmmakers in the 90s and everything that's come since, is that, there's a lot of self-awareness and sarcastic and mocking tropes that play out, in a lot of cinema and storytelling. And there's none of that in The Golden Bat or in that era There's no overwhelming self-awareness and tongue-in-cheek sarcasm. They're more straight than that, I guess.
Yeah. Which lends to it not feeling like it's overstaying its welcome, and it's zipping along pretty quick.
Right.
This felt like maybe a 30-minute watch. It's 70 minutes long, but it moves so quickly. And, maybe when I was saying earlier, sometimes I felt like I was getting whiplash going from scene to scene to scene. Maybe that's just something I need to let go of. I mean, I'm not seeing it as a negative now that we're talking about it more. It's just how these films were presented, and that's okay.
Yeah. We haven't talked too much about Nazo yet, the nemesis, but his character design is unique in the way that they built him. But he's performed by Koji Sekiyama, and he has the most marvelous voice, and his sinister anger is amazing. It's only matched by his henchmen. He has 3 lieutenants that, like, I felt like they would have been right in place, in the original X-Men movie working for Magneto. Like, all 3 of them had that panache, and I really loved the villainy that takes place in the Golden Bat.
This isn't really something that was happening in 60s cinema per se, but this movie, from the Golden Bat character to the 3 henchmen, felt like it needed an action figure line.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they're all unique looking. They all have their own thing that they do. They're super cool. As far as Nazo's character design, I think if I had to be critical of this movie and not change my mind about halfway through a conversation about it, it would probably be that I wish I spent just maybe a little more time on Nazo's character design. Just a little bit.
Right.
But I watch 70s Godzilla movies, and I watch Ultraman, where it's basically a scuba suit and, with some paint on it. So I'm in some incarnations of Ultraman, not all of them, obviously. So, I'm not really criticizing it, I suppose, but maybe just a little bit more time kind of spent on Nazo would have been nice.
Are you saying bike reflectors for eyes and the skin of a sofa doesn't do it for you?
I'm saying that of everything else in this movie, because I love the Golden Bat look. The Golden Bat looks cool. I know that a lot of online reviews are critical of it being a non-functioning mask and that the mouth really doesn't open all that much, if at all. I don't care. It looks super cool. The design of it is really neat. And you called it a Doctor Strange cape. That's something some other online reviewer also commented on. Great Minds or something. That cape, the design just looks cool. And his scepter, his weapon is awesome. And the 3 henchmen, they all look cool. And what they do looks neat. And 60 special effects technology is really doing what it needs to do. I feel like Naso could have used a little bit more, just a little bit more.
Yeah, although I will say the performances of the henchmen and Naso and the Golden Bat, like, all of the actors were clearly having fun and clearly going 110%. Like, they were fully in, and they're taking it to the nines. They're having lots of fun. Totally sincere about their performances. Like, it was really great fun.
I agree with you 100%. It's clear that they're having a good time. And maybe that's why I'm still so enthusiastic about the movie, despite having reservations about Nazo's character design, is because you could tell the performer underneath was having a blast. And you're right. The voice is phenomenal. The Golden Bat's voice. When he first comes to, and conveniently, there are some directions on the wall on how to make the Golden Bat come alive and do what it needs to do. Just add water. But he comes about and he just starts laughing. The laugh is, chef's kiss, man.
Oh, the best. The best laugh you've never heard, probably. You need to watch The Golden Bat just for Osamu Kobayashi's laugh. In fact, it's so good that I'm pretty sure they lifted it directly from the movie performance. It's used in the cartoon series that followed.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. And one thing about the Golden Bat is that you had they did it sort of a Darth Vader. You had a voice actor with Osamu Kobayashi, but Hajime Satô was in the suit. I don't know if Satô went on to do other screen performances or not. I hadn't had a chance to really look into him all that much, but he definitely sells it. The combination is perfect.
It's really cool. It's really good. And why is he attacking the Earth? He just doesn't want to share the universe with humans anymore. So we're going to send planet off course. So we haven't even talked about the story here.
Right.
And normally we don't do like a beat by beat breakdown, but so I did kind of comment earlier that this amateur astronomer sees a planet Icarus, which I've never heard of before. Planet Icarus is suddenly off course and coming towards Earth and will collide with the planet, kill everybody. And that is exactly what's happening, despite the fact that the other scientists are like, you're just an amateur, no big deal, whatever, go away, kid, you're bothering me. It is really what's happening, and the Pearl Foundation is trying to stop it from happening. They have a massive laser weapon that they can use to, I guess, shoot planet Icarus out of the sky and make it go away, but they don't have a lens that can handle the power of the laser. So they go to Atlantis to find it. Which is like, bam, bam, all over the place again. And I love it. It's so crazy.
Yeah, they fly in their supercar, which is it's right up there with the X-Men jet. It's totally on the same level. They fly, they find the mysterious...
there are vehicles in the Ultraman series that do that too. I love it.
So they go on their adventure. They find Atlantis. They find the sarcophagus that happens to have our hero, the Golden Bat, in it. And he offers his services to save humanity from Nazo, who has an amazing base, don't you think? Not only is it a spaceship, not only can it double as an underwater lair, but it also is like this towering drill-like skyscraper that pops up through Tokyo. It is something to see.
Lest you think that this is not a movie we should talk about on Monster Kid Radio or Bride of Monster Kid Radio. It's got aliens. It's got a giant robot thing. It's got shape-shifting monster type stuff going on. It totally is right in the Bride of MKR wheelhouse as far as I'm concerned with these elements alone. The base is cool. The henchmen are awesome. So yeah, for whatever reason, NASA wants to destroy Earth, and he's the one responsible for sending Icarus going towards the planet to wipe us all out. And it's up to Golden Bat and the Pearl group to save the day. That's it. That's the story. Nazo has a claw. And I saw that. First thing I thought was Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget.
Me too.
I'm
like, where's the cat?
Yeah, right.
I guess Nazo's sort of like a cat in a way. So
yeah. It doesn't like something in his way, so he just kind of knocks it over. Yeah. He's got this claw that he sends flying after Golden Bat at one point. It shoots off and flies around. I love it. This has been cited as an inspiration for Claw from Inspector Gadget, but also for maybe a Doctor Who villain or two, which I think is kind of cool. Again, having that influence, everything being a remix again. Really think that's neat. I'm wondering why there weren't more movies.
Me too.
I don't know. Japan was clearly set up for franchise films. Look at the Godzilla films or their kaiju films. But I feel like this could have done more. Maybe if it was a bigger studio, they would have put more money behind it to do more films. Or maybe the idea was, hey, we're going to go into animation now. Let's just do anime at this point. I don't know.
I also wonder if it was the wrong time, in the sense that when you look at the other tokusatsu, it's all, space rangers and robots and giant monsters. That maybe the skull was considered too old-fashioned for some. Especially as Japan moved forward and became such a high-tech powerhouse that maybe in some ways the Golden Bat's design was part of the problem. As I looked into it, this wasn't the first film of the Golden Bat. In 1950, they made Golden Bat, the Skyscraper Phantom, and it's a lost film, but it's considered the first masked hero film coming out in 1950. And if you look at that character design, it's much more like the drawings. He's got a ruffled collar under his skull, and he's got like this big hat. And I'd love it if that film gets discovered. I'll totally pay money to see that. And also later, I guess they also tried to do another film in 1970, and that I don't think it ever was completed. They started it. Like there's some stills out there, but there's no footage that's been found. And I just kind of wonder if it's sort of like, the Phantom movie that we had in the 90s, but it maybe it just didn't line up with everything else culturally, that it didn't take off. I don't know. It seems like characters with skulls seems to struggle as far as being huge film franchises.
And I don't know. I can see what you're saying, though, in terms of like the growth of Japan in the age of technology.
Right.
As opposed to this hero that had been around for 10,000 years just waiting to be woken up in a sarcophagus versus a bunch of high-tech, martial arts wielding, helmet wearing, motorcycle riding heroes saving the day. I assume that's what's happens in Kamen Rider. I've never watched an episode of Kamen Rider, even though I keep meaning to. But I still think it's an important piece of that pop culture to get to the point that we were, where we are now. Golden Bat crawled so the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers could morph.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. I just kind of wonder if it's sort of similar to, Star Wars and Flash Gordon. Like I love both of those films, but Flash Gordon didn't go anywhere. And maybe part of it was the sense that people were ready for something different. And that's the reason Star Wars is the cultural icon that it was. And Flash Gordon was one film,
That's possible. Yeah. I think maybe you're right.
The Golden Bat.
And it's a very...
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say the Golden Bat.
I was going to say it's a very apt... we both said go ahead. And then
No, you go ahead.
It's an apt comparison. Because there are so many Flash Gordonisms in this movie or vice versa.
Yeah. And the Golden Bat is really amazing. And if you love superheroes, action films, tokusatsu, kaiju, all of it, all genre cinema, you owe it to yourself to watch this film. That even though it didn't spawn a huge franchise, it is really important. And like you said, Derek, the Golden Bat crawled so the Power Rangers could morph. And I think that that's very true.
Now, in terms of being able to see this movie, it is available on various streaming services. I do show that in last year, in fact, Shout Factory put out a Blu-ray collection, a 4-disc set that includes the movies Prince of Space, Invasion of the Neptune Men, Atari the Ninja Boy, Dragon Showdown, Ninja Scope, Terror Beneath the Sea, and what they called Golden Ninja, which I think is an alternate title for this.
Yes.
So that's out there, and it's got some extra trailers and such. And Shout Factory does a good job. Now, I don't know if it's still available. Sometimes Shout Factory puts things out, and then that's it, kind of a limited release. But it looks like you can at least still order it from their website. I don't know about Amazon or anything like that. Something I wouldn't mind adding to my collection, though, certainly, especially if it's got decent transfers of this movie, Invasion of the Neptune Men, which we talked about yesterday in the stream over at twitch.tv/MonsterKidRadio. We do that every other weekend, where we show monster movies. Join me. And, a decent transfer of Terror Beneath the Sea would be great, too.
Yeah, I watched the Golden Ninja version of this on Tubi, but it is the Golden Bat, and it was a great transfer. Like, it's HD, the audio is super clean, the picture is great, and I saw that it's streaming on various sites. So it's out there. It's easy to track down.
Okay. Another recommendation that I'd like to make real quick. Now, this one will be more difficult to get because it is out of print right now, and it's a Criterion release, which means it's probably going for collector's prices. But back in, I want to say maybe 2013 or so, Criterion put out a 4-disc DVD set called When Horror Came to Shochiko, and it includes Goki, Body Snatcher from Hell, in its collection. It also has the movies The Living Skeleton, Genocide, and one of my favorite kaiju films, The X from Outer Space, the only kaiju film that studio did. But I would recommend that collection if you can get your hands on it. I do have it, but like I said, it's out of print right now, and I don't know how easy it would be to get your hands on it. But if you can get your hands on it, check it out, because those are also some really cool films. And like I said, Goki Body Snatcher from Hell just makes me feel unsettled. I would recommend it. It's good. It just unsettles the heck out of me. And not a lot of movies actually do that. And I've seen a lot of horror movies. But I do want to know more about the filmmaker. I do want to check out some of his other films as well. House of Terrors sounds fascinating. And The Glamorous Ghost sounds really cool. A put-upon husband murders his adulterous wife and then decides to blackmail her various lovers. That sounds like it's got some gothic creepiness in there. And Japanese gothic cinema, like if you haven't seen the vampire films that they did in the 70s, oh, there's some good stuff.
I think we definitely have some more movies to watch. I'm still excited about Wolf Guy.
Oh, Wolf Guy. We got to check out Wolf Guy. And I think Vinegar Syndrome put that out on Blu-ray. So there should be a good print of that available somewhere out there.
Awesome.
Well, Matt, this was fun.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for allowing me to have these cinematic adventures and enjoying my nerd out love for them with you on Monster Kid Radio. I hope the listeners get something out of it. And I know I certainly have.
Heck yeah, I would recommend that people keep their eyes open for maybe some of these movies they've never seen before, but might be of the era or of the genre. You're in for a good time. In most cases, you're going to find something to love. And, you know, it's one of the things that I love about finding old movies that I've never seen before. New to me films. They're the best.
And there's so many out there.
Oh, too many sometimes. But it does mean that I'm going to be in business for quite some time here on the podcast. So maybe there aren't too many. Maybe there's enough to just keep me going until this podcaster eventually fades away. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the podcast. It means a lot to have you here, and it means even more if you talk about us on your various social media platforms. We are available on Facebook, on X, on Blue Sky, on Reddit, on Reddit, and Patreon. And we even have a Discord. We don't do much over at Discord. But if you check out any of the other social media outlets, please consider sharing the post or maybe even creating a new post, letting people know about what we do here at Bride of Monster Kid Radio. Like I said at the top of the show, the more the merrier. The more monster kids we have in the pool, the more fun the pool. But where am I going with the pool analogy? That's weird. But, you know, we just love talking about monster movies with our friends. And we could always use more monster-loving friends, right? Anyway, we appreciate all of your support online by reposting, sharing, and rating and reviewing and all of that other stuff. You can go over to monsterkidradio.net to find links to most of our social media outlets. You can also find our contact information over there. If you ever want to get a hold of us, you can email us at monsterkidradio@gmail.com. Or if you want to call and leave us a voicemail, you can call us at 360-524-2484. There is a hard 3-minute limit on that voicemail, but if you have more than 3 minutes worth of stuff to say, you can always call back a second time, continue your message, and I will stitch them together in the final edit of the podcast, and we'll just get a conversation going too. I don't get nearly as much feedback as I'd like via voicemail, so I would love to hear from you. Beth would love to hear from you. And as of right now, Beth is scheduled to be on the show next week. I know we have been missing her here at Bride of Monster Kid Radio HQ. I've been missing her so much. And in fact, as soon as I get done recording this, I'm hopping in the car and driving over to the airport to go pick her up. She's going to be back, and we are going to talk about the Hideous Sun Demon finally here on the show. So that's coming up next week. So if you have thoughts about the Hideous Sun Demon, well, you can always call that in or email me and, you know, we'll include that in the mix as well. Again, there's links to all of this in the show notes. There's also a link to the Classic Horror Film Board. You're going to want to check that out because there are some awesome conversations happening over there. It's a great forum. It's a great place to talk about monster movies. And Monster Kid Radio does have a presence in the podcast section. So go check that out. Maybe chat it up over there as well. Bride of Monster Kid Radio is a Team Death production. All original content of Bride of Monster Kid Radio is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 Unported license. You can learn more about Team Death, our other projects like Death Designs, Mail Order Zombie, the Team Death YouTube channel, and more at www.teamdeath.com. Remember, death is spelled D-E-T-H. All previous episodes of this podcast, as well as the original Monster Kid Radio podcast, are available at www.monsterkidradio.net. Please rate and review Bride of Monster Kid Radio wherever you download your favorite podcasts. This is Kaijin Country is copyright 2024 Vacant Planets. It's on their album Kaijin, and you can check them out over at vacantplanets.bandcamp.com. There's quite a few releases available from Vacant Planets. Really appreciate they're giving us the okay to play their music here on the show. Please support them and let them know that you heard about them here on Bride of Monster Kid Radio. My name is Derek M. Cook. I'll talk to everybody next week with Beth and the Hideous Sun Demon. Ciao.